Welcome back to Let's Talk Race to Mile. I'm your host, Harrison Paul. And today we're going to continue the topic of us struggling and fighting for the justice of Luke Momo. It's been an emotional few days as we've been trying to organize ourselves on behalf of the Momo family. We're working closely with the Momo family to ensure that we can get this story to the right ears, and also ensuring that we pick the right support in terms of lawyers and ask the right questions. I first want to start off by answering a few questions that the public seem to have had about this case. And one of them being is, why have you only arrived at this place now regarding a lawyer, regarding questions? I think one of the most painful parts of this story is the trust that I guess the Momo family tried to have in the system. And it's so sad that it only got to a place where, the daughter, which is his sister, got to a place, she arrived at a place where I guess she was able to use her bravery to break out of that box and say, you know what, I don't know if I can go any longer. So it was trust really that brought us to this place and brought her to the pain, sitting in the pain for so long. And anybody who's African descent, you understand that a lot of the times us being raised in Ireland, we understand, I guess, the Irish people that bit more. And African people, we were kind of raised, and our elders would have more of a put up and shut up mentality, and just kind of to be appreciative of the country and whatnot. And this is why, the whole concept of us being people who complain about everything is so false, because we've seen our parents keep quiet for so many generations about things that they suffered with. And now we are the generation who has come to be able to read the room a little bit better and say, you know what, I think we have to be the ones who speak up that bit more. But then again, their generation, they actually seen people killed and die for having an opposing opinion to white power structures. So it's not as straightforward as things may seem. But of course, we get back to this part where and I'm so proud of the sister for coming on the show. And I know everyone felt her pain. I know everyone felt what she was going through. And that is exactly what I felt. And now I am so happy that I'm not the only one. And, the small group of us who had heard her at first are not the only people who are feeling this desire to support her and be behind her. So that's the first part that I want to get out the way, that it was actually the trust of the system that brought us to this place that we've waited, and look how the trust has been broken. And in many ways, a lot of people cannot believe the story is true. I had one lady message or leave a comment and say it definitely cannot be true, because the RT didn't mention anything. If it was true, RT mainstream media would have mentioned it. And it's ironic that the very reason you don't believe the story is the very reason it's unbelievable, and this very reason that it's actually such a tragic story, because I don't blame you for not believing it. That's how ridiculous the story is. But there's nothing that has been fabricated. A young man was who suffered from severe schizophrenia. Even I decided I'll share with you one of the stories. I asked her for consent, but the sister who came on the show spoke to me about what she had gone through. And I guess they had found images on his phone after he had passed, and there were some images on his phone of him literally just in a room, essentially, not really in his right mind, not talking to himself, and just it's a very intimate thing for me to open up to the public, but to kind of allow people to understand that this guy was really, really not someone you could, judge his decisions making like you would judge mine or anybody else's. The guy really was almost not really present in his mind. And when she described this story to me, she broke down in tears, and she was explaining how the room that he was in looked like a prison cell. And that she was actually, it opened her mind to understand that how do we expect people who are in the homeless sector to rehabilitate their minds. And Luke was actually a great footballer who had high hopes. He had no no mental health problems up until their family, started to hit, a bump in the road in terms of homelessness. And as she said in that episode, they could not be housed together in the same facility, so they split them up, and this is when he began to deteriorate. And of course, he's age of, at this point, 17 or 18, and without a parent, hands on, well, not hands on, but like there every day. Surely sometimes things start to take a turn for the worst. But anyway, she kind of described to me the images that she found on his phone, and how the family saw that. And I just wanted you to say, of course, they noticed for some time. She also described to me how one of the reasons that she began to know that he was not in his right mind was, she would call, they would call him, and they would speak on the phone, and then he would blank out in the middle of a conversation. Basically, he would just say, I want to come home with you guys, almost completely forgetting that they were no longer at the home that they were before they were evicted from that home, completely forgetting the scenario that they were currently in. Why can't I come home? As in, like, and she was noticing that I think he's completely forgotten we're no longer in that previous house that we were. And this is when she began to notice the signs. And obviously, we know there's a guy in the Bondi, in Australia, who, of course, got into some, he murdered some people in the shopping mall. And of course, I can go on about how people's attitudes change when at first they thought it was a brown person, and then they realized that it was a white man. And I can really get into this is the media and stuff like that, but this is our life. This is stuff that we're used to. For a black man, for a brown man, things become a lot worse. You have a lot less lives. And of course, we have the touching video with the father who begins to pour out about how his son was not well, and he apologized on behalf of his son. Yeah, but unlike the father, I'm not here, nor is the family here to apologize, because Luke has lost his life. So there's a lot of people questioning whether or not he deserved to be alive, and that's a testament to the society that we live in. People seem to have skipped over the fact that the young man was, suffering severe schizophrenia, diagnosed, and really going through this in real time. And to try and judge him, disregarding at all what he's going through, is just completely disgusting. I don't want to give too much light to anything else people are saying about his past or his history. I'm not here to do that. I'm taking a few pages out of the George Floyd book. That man was, his name or his moment was used to I guess bring a lot of change, bring a lot of conversation around race, and he deserved to live. A lot of people then tried to smear that campaign with saying of his past or his whatever, but like we say with anybody, they deserve their day in court. So I just feel like anybody who's trying to bring up Luke's past, I would appreciate anyone who's supporting to continue supporting. And just, if you even bother to give these people any time in the comments, just make it clear that this young man actually was suffering a lot and was not in his right mind. So I definitely think the system let him down many ways by actually keeping him in the incorrect sector a lot of the times, in the homeless sector, instead of anywhere else that could have helped him and supported him with his mental health. But I don't want to focus too much on that, nor do I want Luke's legacy to be focused on that. I myself went through severe mental health, maybe not schizophrenia, but I definitely had a period in my life where I was doing actions that even now I cannot recognize, and I know that life, you can bounce back. Here I am today, and everyone deserves that opportunity. And unfortunately, like for me, lucky for me, I got to have my family around me who were patient with me despite my many, many mistakes during that time, which he wasn't able to, by no fault of his own, by no fault of the family. They were not allowed to be housed at that. They were not unable to be housed, in the same house during that time. So it just, brings us to this place now, guys, where I just want us to kind of focus on the main factor, which is this young man deserved to live, and the family, and the inconsistencies which have taken place from the guards, the inconsistencies regarding the hostel, and definitely the fact that that night, the night of the 23rd, was a racist riot. This young man was on his way home from a racist riot. And that the night he arrived home, he did not wake up. When he was identified the next day by his mother, he was identified with cuts and bumps on his head. And I think it's shameful at the hostel, understanding that a riot was outside due to really racism, that you would not check up on your black or any of your foreign, if you had more than him in there, your foreign, I guess, people within that, they were under your care. So I just think that that's a massive thing. I also think it's a good point for us to understand that I definitely know, and Africans, you will know this, there's a huge disregard or lack of respect for an African that an Irish would have gotten that respect. And I want to say there's a disrespect that always crosses over into an insult, where you don't even respect someone's mere existence enough to carry out a certain act. And anybody we've spoken to about this so far, even the people who are commenting on it, cannot believe up until this very day we have not even heard a word from the police, an update or anything, and nothing on the autopsy, nothing on the postmortem. It's unheard of. And this level of disrespect, I believe, is a clear indication to a racial bias, a lack of respect, a lack of fear. That fear, like I cannot do my job that incorrectly or incorrectly to that degree. But you felt, it's only an African. What does it matter anyway? Like I'll get away with that. No need to stress myself too much about that. So there are so much things about this that make me feel, and I think have been a huge shock, not only to me, but the whole public. And we really appreciate the family, all the support you've been giving the Momo family. And I am so, hopeful that we will see justice for this family. And not only will we see justice for the family, but we will then begin to see a change and allow this to be a benchmark, something that, changed things, and forever we looked at things differently. It's unfortunate it had to go this way. There's been another young lady who left a comment on my video about she was assaulted the night of the riots, and she's still also going through an investigation. I really do think that this whole anti-migrant movement is really gotten out of hand. And, I was only saying to someone recently, because of course we had the young Benga situation where we had to protect him from the far right. And I was speaking to a black lady recently, and she said to me, he'll be all right. And I really didn't like that, because it's like, that's the kind of, tough skin that we are supposed to live on with, right? You'll be all right, but with any other race, whether it be women's safety that are under, that's under attack or anything like that, there will be action taken in a seriousness around the matter. And I really do think if black people, if we kind of say, listen, you know what, you'll live, that's when we find ourselves in situations like Luke, and we shouldn't wait for Benga to happen or turn out like a Luke, or, God forbid that will never happen, but any other situation, I think we have to show an urgency around the matter now. We have to show an urgency that this will not be accepted. I actually have another tape that I came across today that I wanted to really us to get into about a Lewis ticket inspector who was also abused during shifts, and he wants to explain his story. Listen to this.
Sometimes you come to work, you can get racial abuse five times daily. Sometimes you turn around and just say you don't want to hear this no more, but you can't go home. Sometimes it can be mentally derailed sometimes, and we have to be ringing the controller every time to ring the guard. By the time the guard arrived, they're gone. Jump on the next tram. We're traveling between the Jervis towards Euston Station. Between that, I heard a guy, I'm a KKK. Yeah, I'm talking to you. I'm KKK. We're gonna make sure we sort you out and this and that. And there was a lady there on the train was looking at me and looking at him. The lady got involved in it. Tell him to shut up, like, you know what I mean. You can't say that. This is Ireland. I was very happy to find somebody there, you know, to back me up, like, you know. I find that very scary. I find that very, very scary. You know, it took me a while before I can get over. I actually went to counseling for that.
You know, it's so it's it's really mad how a big man like him said I went to counseling. You know what it is? I think it's I think it's the idea that my life won't matter. Follow me. Whatever way this goes down, and black people, we understand this. If I retaliate how the situation needs for me to retaliate, it's a black man versus white boys. So if I turn out having to look like a monster, if I have to stand up to the plate in which this situation really kind of in many ways is asking for me, then how this story goes out does not go out the way it really is. So in many ways, I guess it is scary because you are forced to be someone who has to find, the high road. Quite like I told you with the Momo family. It's always your burden to carry a trauma because like what the sister's been going through, no one will believe you or if you have a fault, your faults are going to be a lot worse. And even the idea of, people in the comments, the jobless people or the whatever, of course, these are jobless people. And, we have the radical bunch who are going out and doing these violent acts. But I'm seeing, marches of people who look like they come from good homes, the middle class, the upper middle class, who are now doing these get-togethers and so forth. And I think it's so toxic because I really do think the ideology towards immigration needs to be, I'm going to use the term reformed. I don't know if it works that way, but it needs to be reformed. The ideology is flawed. It is completely and utterly flawed. Why is it flawed? I need you to understand that the reason why, if you understood the reason why Africans are here, the concept that you are helping someone who cannot help themselves. I seen someone on TikTok who said, we helped the Africans when they couldn't. This needs to go. It absolutely needs to go. I was currently reading up on, the scandal of the mixed race scandal, the mixed kids scandal, of Irish women who would have black babies, babies with black men, and they would dump them in orphanages because their parents would say, get rid of the baby. Racism has been going on since back then, but the concept that, we welcomed you from the it's so false. I was reading up on people like Phil, and his mother was encouraged to give him away because he was black. Paul McGrath, I just don't like that we now look back at that story like it was always, Paul McGrath. That's false. That generation, I even met a man and he's in his 50s and, he's a British man, or raised in Britain rather, but I said, he goes, oh, where are you from? I said, oh, I'm raised in Ireland. And he goes, okay, I'm Irish. I said, you're Irish? He goes, yeah, my mother's Irish. And we get to talking and he tells me this whole story about his life. And basically, I actually wanted to get him on the podcast, but I don't think he wanted to reveal himself. So it never happened. But I'm going to use his story today. And it's like, he told me that his mother actually went through a lot of abuse for having children with a black man. So much that they couldn't even be there. They came to the UK and then it was even still bad for them there. Now he's in his 50s, so you would know what generation that is. The concept that African people were always welcomed, it's a lie. And I always hammer on the history when regards to, the Southern African history, in regards to the Jamaican and African history. Half of Jamaica have Irish names because it was owned by Irish slaves. And then we got the American, the Boston, all this kind of stuff. This concept that we've always given you, and we couldn't. It's just a lie. And what I want to be understood, when brothers like this happen, is also not only is there a history, but there's a current day. And to better explain that current day, no other better person to get than Claire Daly, as she is speaking about the Migration Pact. And goodness, I hope one day Ireland would listen to this lady. It is really a breath of fresh air to hear an Irish lady who understands the history and how that unfolded and how that progressed between Africa and the European Union. Let me play this video. Check this out.
I voted against the pact because it's a bonanza for the defence and arms industry that profits so handsomely from the wars and instability that make people refugees and migrants in the first place. It's a scam, a massive transfer of public money straight into the pockets of the security industries. It's billions being spent on walls and drones and spy tech, on contractors and consultants and border guards, on all of the expensive, deadly trappings of pushback, detention and surveillance. Billions taken from the things we need: health, housing, education and childcare. And this deal won't stop migration. It probably won't even slow it down. But it will kill plenty of people who've no choice but to leave their homes because of the policies we implement. And it will murder international law and the right to asylum. So we need to organise against the elites who are taking our money and giving it to the rich, not the poor. And for that we need the solidarity of everybody who's been scammed to come together and stand against the EU's modern colonialism.
The EU's modern colonialism. For anybody that think that there are no benefits to Ireland for being in the EU, I need you to understand the minerals the EU take: oil, gas, platinum, ruby, chrome, diamonds, coltan, cobalt. This is not even talking about the foods. That's talking about the minerals alone, the minerals that make planes, phones. Honestly and truly, the Western world runs from this. We do not get to pretend that the history that we have had in no way shaped the world that we're in today. No way shaped the Western superiority, economic superiority. I struggle with that word. Or should I just say supremacy? Economic supremacy. There's absolutely no way. And the thing is, I just feel like as we are here in the West, Africa, it is our responsibility to make these things known, to fight this corner. Because we have, like that African man at the Lewis who's working as an inspector, you kind of feel it's your responsibility to take, because the history really has been hidden. The respect that should be given to the African has been hidden. How much the Western world function off of Africa is hidden. So you feel like because you come from a good-for-nothing land, you've been done a favor to come here. Literally, there is no world that can run without Africa. There's absolutely no world that, and if you don't want to believe that, it's because you're racist. It's because your mind doesn't want to wrap its mind around the fact that how could we, the superior Western world, depend on nothing Africa? We are still trying to unravel the colonial deals, the colonial rule. It is not an overnight thing, nor is it a 67-year thing. It's an intricate thing. She's addressing the wars that take place. Do you know how many military bases sit in African countries protecting their diamonds, posing as though they're protecting the peace in those places? Bro, you know how much diamonds are flown out every day, each day? Diamonds alone could rehabilitate Africa. The money made off diamonds alone, the money made off Apple alone. Yeah, the mineral that even enables Apple to run, the chip in Apple. Honestly, guys, I say all this for us to understand the history and the current day neocolonialism, that when we find ourselves in places like Luke Momo, like this brother, the Lewis, or like anything else, we must understand our worth. A lot of the things that take place, is because the African still needs to come to understanding of his worth. He's been tricked that he should accept certain things. And I'm so glad that the Black community has come together to say we do not accept this. I'm so happy we do not accept this. And I know that even as this progresses, there's going to be a major smear campaign. There's going to be a major downplaying of a young brother's life, a disregard for a young brother's life. And I just pray and I hope and I'm confident that we stick together and we continue to make things that happen to us a big deal. When we show that things that happen to us are a big deal, like George Floyd, you know that life after George Floyd is completely different to life before George Floyd. Why? Because the community worldwide is setting a new standard for what we do not accept. And as painful as it is, Luke's death cannot and should not be in vain. We should use that as a metaphor for every other place. For every other place, in the workplace, in day-to-day life, where we step up the standard, where we step up the respect for the African people, that they are not beggars in how much they give to the West. They give in their work, the work of their hands, and they give in their nation and what sits in the ground, the riches and the wealth. Colonization is not conquered overnight. And no, we are not like other countries who were colonized because they weren't as rich as we are. There was something to lose. There was something major to walk away from that no thief in their right mind will walk away from it like it's nothing. So thank you so much for watching. It's still justice for Luke Momo. Thank you to everyone that's been supporting. We are hopeful. We are believing this young brother will not die in vain. It is such a sad thing that his life, he suffered a lot in his life. He had big dreams, was a great footballer. I'm hearing he played for Home Farm, Bohemians, was well known for his football skills. And they praised him then, apparently. But once you're no longer in that headspace, once you've lost what you can offer them. You know, I had someone come and say to me about, we always loved Paul McGrath. No, you love the goals Paul McGrath scored for you. There's a difference. Once a black person can offer you something in that way, then they gain their just humanity, their right to be a human. Other than that, it's questionable. So that's why black excellence was such a thing, because we were trying to actually gain a right to be a human, the same rights, the same, I guess, respect. Oh, okay, right. So you're a different black person. Why? Because you're good at football, or you can sing well, or because you're a nerd. Oh, right. So that stress to be excellent came from wanting to actually be significant, to have a simple human significance. So listen, we can open that another day, but thank you so much for watching. Yeah. Lastly, we are in touch with lawyers. Loads of stuff are moving forward. This is looking good, guys. We thank you so much for speaking, for supporting the Momo family. They're not alone in this, and I think they know it now. Thank you so much for watching.
And I'm on a mission for you.